All right, so we're recording. Guys, thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it. We're here with Brian Frierson, who is a great guy. I've had a pleasure talking to him once, real briefly before our webinar here today. Learned a little bit about him and his career, and I can't tell you how excited I am to get to hear the rest of the story here today. He's also gotten a chance to speak with my partner Rick, and if you know Rick, it means a lot when I say Rick has spoken very highly of Brian. So that's about the highest endorsement I can give. Brian, thank you very, very much for coming out with us today.
You're welcome.
So let's just jump right on in. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the insurance field.
I started selling insurance in 2005. Started working captive with American General, and I did real well with them. Then I went independent in 2009. I started working insurance. I remember the life insurance man coming and seeing my mother, seeing the nice clothes he wore, the nice shoes, and the nice car he drove. And I just asked him, how can I start, doing what you do? Start selling insurance. And he led me on the right path to get my license, and I've been doing it ever since. Wouldn't do anything else. And that's basically it.
Now, tell me a little bit about transitioning from the captive to the independent arena, because I know a lot of folks here in the association, we have that conversation about being captive versus being independent. Can you tell us a little bit about what that change was like?
It wasn't too hard for me because I already knew how to get customers, how to get clients, and my mentality is that if I already know how to get customers and get clients, why am I taking, a big hit on commissions where I can make more commission and doing the same amount of work? So it wasn't that hard for me.
I love it. And I gotta say, that's a big part of why we really wanted to talk to you, because you've got that mentality. A lot of new agents come in and they don't want to focus on learning how to prospect. And, like you said, know how to generate business. You can go anywhere and do anything.
Yes, sir. Like I started selling insurance in Alabama. I'm from Florida. When I moved to Alabama in 2003. And like I said, I started in 2005, so I didn't really have a warm market. I didn't have the ability to do a Project 100 or a Project 200. So I had to go out there and meet people. So like you said, I can go anywhere and sell insurance as long as you have the ability to talk to people and meet people. That's all this business is talking to people, meeting people, and solving their problems.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. And when we talked the other day, you mentioned, I think you mentioned that you're getting into the kind of cancer insurance arena now, just because it's turning into such a good fit for so many of the folks you're talking to. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about how that's worked with your practice. I know that we've done some presentations in the past on cancer insurance and how you can get in the door with it, but it's been focused on just cancer insurance by itself. How have you made that a part of everything you do?
Well, when I'm talking to people about the insurance, I always ask them, do you know anyone that came down with cancer? And most people are like, yeah, I had a friend or a friend of mine's mother. And, we go to a conversation. I tell them, cancer is one of the number one causes of bankruptcy in America, because health insurance doesn't pay for all of cancer treatment. And we know how much a financial burden is. Cancer is on the family. And I show them a plan, and then most people get it. And because, statistics say 1 in 3 people is going to come down with cancer at least one time in their life. And that's powerful. And I always point that out to people. 1 in 3 people is going to come down with cancer. You can't beat them odds.
And
that's how go ahead.
Yeah, I was agreeing with you. It's such a ubiquitous thing. When you ask if they know someone who's come down with cancer, it's more likely than not that they will.
Yes. Yeah, because Because it's one of the biggest diseases out there, Nick, and it's an easy sale. You know, you touch insurance is an emotional sale, okay? And when you ask that person, do they know anybody that came down with cancer? Most people are going like, yeah, you know, you got to take off work, go to chemo. And then that's not taking, you know, like, give you an example. I have a client, her mother had cancer, and she has to take off work, take her mother to chemo, you know? And what if her mother has a plan that pays for chemo treatment and she gives her daughter that money for taking off work? You see how that works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know, you gotta
think costs.
Yeah. You gotta think outside the box, you know, give people options. And that's all I do.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to cancer, there's so many things that are not strictly medical expenses, but that are very expensive. You know, like taking time off work. You lose a bunch of weight from the chemo, and you need a new wardrobe. You know, there's 100 different things. You know, you got to have somebody watch your dog while you're out. You know, 3 days a week or something. You know, as far as the cancer, it's you mentioned going out and talking to people and just having this conversation with them. How are you prospecting for this initially to get to that initial conversation?
I go door knocking. What I do is that I get a list of customers here in my area that's between age 50 and 65. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Hold on.
Oh, no problem.
I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
Like what I do, I get a list of customers that's between the age of 50 and 65. Because in my experience, that age range, they have experienced somebody that has had cancer, okay? And then I go knock on their door. I introduce myself. Hey, my name is Brian Frierson. I'm a local insurance agent in the area. And I have helped out, you know, many of your neighbors in the past. And I'm just coming out here, you know, doing what politicians do, meeting people. And also I'm discussing the financial burden of getting cancer. And then I be quiet and let the customer start talking. And then we just have a conversation. Then I say, well, it only takes me 5 minutes to show you what you qualify for. Do you mind if we step in and I show you what you qualify for 5 minutes? And most of everybody be like, yeah, okay, or either I set up a time to come back and talk to them. And that's basically it.
See, I absolutely love that, and there's so much about that that I like. You know, starting that conversation and then pausing and being silent and letting the client, you know, come back and speak to you about that. That's brilliant. A lot of agents want to stand there and talk themselves into a sale, and they end up talking themselves right out of it. Letting the client get that involved, and then, you know, building a conversation there. That's very smooth, and honestly, it's door knocking, it's hard work, it's what 99% of agents won't do, but your leads cost you your time, and that's very solid. And I would be willing to guess that, you know, a lot of agents would do well to develop that kind of work ethic. That's very impressive.
Yes, sir. And then one thing that agents don't realize in cancer, you know, cancer insurance pays very good renewals. Very good renewals.
And you're right.
I got yeah.
Very much.
They pay very good renewals.
Yeah, when we talk to people about renewals, the only thing anyone ever wants to talk about here is Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage plans. But you're right. You know, that cancer insurance stuff and the long-term care as well, they can bring in a great renewal base for you on top of your other business.
Yes, sir.
So I want to harp on this just for a moment longer. The fact that you came into your area in 2003 with no warm market, and in 2005 started writing business. You know, you were door knocking. You identified your market. You figured out what they would want to talk about and where they would be, and you went to them. You immediately built common ground with them, and and formulated a kind of an elevator pitch that immediately leads into a conversation. That's about as close to perfect as you get. And this is just a clinic for everyone here on how to dig leads out of the dirt if you need to. I mean, seriously, Brian, thank you for sharing. That's fantastic. And we can do training videos and that sort of thing all day long, but to hear it from an agent that's out there doing it every day, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yes, sir. And one more story before we stop. That's not even how I started selling insurance. How I started selling insurance in American General is that I would park outside like a Walmart or a Kmart, and everybody that came out of the store, I would go up to them and hand them my business card and ask them about their life insurance. And that's how I validated. I won a trip my first year at American General. I won the Super 100 award, which means I sold 100 policies in my first 90 days just by doing that and working off referrals.
That blows me away. That honestly blows me away. That's amazing. And that's a testament to what just getting out there and just doing it will do for you.
Yes, sir.
I think the best advice I ever got was when you don't know what to do something. Go out and see somebody, and that's just taking that to the extreme. And my God, did it ever work? That's really that I'm near speechless.
Yes, sir.
I have I suppose it's almost a silly question, but how did you dress for that? When you went out in front of the Kmart and Walmart, and now in these days when you go out and door knock, how are you dressed for that?
Khakis and a polo shirt.
Khakis and a polo. Okay, I was just curious.
Now during the summer, sometimes I wear khaki shorts and a polo, but I've never been a suit and tie man. Never. That's not me. That's church on Sunday, special occasion. I never wore, dress shirt and tie really. But yeah, khakis and polo shirt. That's my insurance wardrobe.
All right, well, guys, why don't we open things up for a little bit of Q&A here? You've got the question and answer panel on that Zoom control panel. You can open that up if you have any questions. You can fire them our way there. You've also got the chat panel there if you guys would like to chat any questions to us. But Brian, I've really enjoyed the conversation here. I think it's been incredibly valuable to hear. I've talked to a lot of new agents that I wish I could go back in time and have them just listen to this conversation, because the confidence in your voice and the approach you're taking to this whole thing it's just the right way to do it. It shines through the fact that you know what you're doing and that you're confident in your ability to do it. And I'm sure the first time you ever went out and tried to sell a policy, your knees might have been knocking a little bit and the butterflies might have been in the stomach, but it's that comes through in your voice. And today, the confidence you have comes through as well. And it's to develop that and have that kind of swagger almost is such an awesome thing for an agent. And it makes it, I would assume, and I would say from my experience, it makes it a little bit easier to sell.
Yeah, it does, because like I tell new agents, in this business, to acquire new customers, you're either going to have to spend money or spend time. Okay. Mm-hmm. And most new agents don't have money to spend on leads. Okay. Now, spending time is not spending a lot of time. Like, I can go out there. I'll give you an example. This Saturday, me and another agent that's new, we went out and we door knocked this whole apartment complex. And we was out there for like 4 hours and got 20 leads and made one sale. You know, it doesn't take that much. You know, and then the biggest thing that new agents have to get over is their laziness.
Amen.
A lot of new agents are lazy. You know, they think that they have an insurance license and people's gonna come and want and talk to them about insurance. No, you got to go talk to the people. And when I take new agents out, they are amazed because they didn't know that people will talk to you about insurance if you ask them. People will generally talk to you about insurance if you ask them. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, I'm curious. You know, when you did the prospecting in front of the retail centers, you know, obviously you got a good deal of yeses, but did you ever get any kind of pushback from that?
You get people tell you need to find your real job. And you know, I've been kicked out of the parking lot by Walmart security. I just go to another one. But yeah, there's some pushback. Leave me alone. You harassing me, you know, stuff like that. But then you don't get paid on the no's, you get paid on the yeses.
There you go.
There have been plenty of times I have written up insurance in the Walmart subway or the Walmart McDonald's or in the mall food court, you know, right there on the spot. You run up to people, oh yeah, me and my husband just got married and we've been talking about getting a policy and you called us at the right time. You know, I got plenty of stories to tell like that. Or you walk up to somebody and they be like, I have all the insurance I need. Well, my mama really needs life insurance. She's on dialysis. You got any plans for that? Well, sure. Yes, I do. You know, I have a lot of stories to tell like that. You know, but it's a numbers game. You gotta have.
No, go ahead.
You gotta have thick skin. You can't get upset or get mad because somebody told you no or got a little rude with you. You say I'm sorry and walk away. On to the next one.
Yeah, I think a lot of new agents are scared to hear no. You know, they don't want to get rejected. They don't want to be told that. And I imagine that method of prospecting is kind of a trial by fire. Your skin gets thick fairly quick, and you get over those feelings. But it's like you said. You know, that perseverance does pretty amazing things. You know, you just keep at it. You leave one, you go to another. It's that's just the underlying theme of the talk here today. Is, you know, just keep at it, just work your ass off, see the people, and that you'll get the results you want. And like you said,
well, let me tell you. I don't mean to interrupt. Let me tell you this. I cheated a little bit. You know, I come from a sales background. Before I started selling insurance, I used to do business door to door selling AT&T products. Okay, and that's what actually got my skin thick by doing that. Okay.
Sure.
You learned this saying in sales: some will, some won't. So what?
Mm-hmm.
On to the next one. You know, and I took that experience for me selling B2B AT&T service into insurance, and it works. You just got to go and see people. Now, I'm not going to say I don't buy leads. Yes, I do buy leads occasionally when I do have that lazy bug, you know.
But the ability to recognize that is the important thing. You know, a lot of agents think that because they buy their 10 leads a week, they're not lazy, they're working hard, because that's more than a day to call. So it's
all a lead is a name and a phone number for somebody that expressed interest in insurance.
Exactly.
You can get that yourself by going out and talking to people. I have shoe boxes full of names and numbers that I've gotten over these years of people that I talk to about insurance. You just got to keep your pipeline full.
You know, I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but the whole prospect in front of the Walmart camera thing is just absolutely fascinating me here.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to folks when you came up to them? I mean, what kind of product did you lead with? How did you break into that?
Well, We had a product with the quality of life insurance, which means it came with critical illness, heart attack and stroke, and terminal illness rider.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't walk up to people going in. I walked up to people as they were coming out to Walmart. And I would give them my business card, but hey, my name is Brian Frierson. I'm a local insurance agent here in the area. Let me ask you a question. How open would you be for getting life insurance that you don't have to die to use? That was it. And let them answer.
I love it. I love that. And the again, you don't always have to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Asking a question and waiting for an answer. That's a awesome way to generate interest and to get somebody involved in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got one more question for you, Brian. Then I'm not going to take up any more of your day. When you're doing your door knocking and you're gathering demographics for that, you mentioned the age range you're looking at there. Are you looking at any other demographics as well, like income ranges or anything like that, or is it just strictly age?
It's just strictly age.
Strictly age. Okay.
Don't need any demographic for income, housing, anything like that. Because, like I said, cancer strikes 1 in 3 people.
And in that age range, especially, they're virtually certain to know somebody who's been affected. You're totally right.
Yes, sir.
Guys, I'm so glad I recorded this webinar. When new agents call me from now on and ask me how to get started in the business, my job is done. I just have to send them the link to this, and we're all set. It's been really an honest pleasure talking with you, Brian. Thank you so much for coming out today.
You're welcome.
And guys, thank you all for coming out and joining us as well. Sincerely appreciate it. We'll have we do have this webinar recorded. We're going to cut the edit and get it up over the weekend. Brian will have a copy emailed out to you as well. So if you'd like to take any screenshots hanging on the wall, that'll be an option. And
no problem.
One more time, thank you all. We'll see everybody next time.
All right.